we get to a presidential campaign, we didn't even have differences. We didn't have another candidate to vote for. It was either Trump or not. It was either Biden or not. And there just wasn't that level of excitement at the top of the ticket for the primary. Primaries are always much lower than the general election, but it just wasn't there. And I think there may be some things in the aftermath, depending on how this transfer tax comes out to bring Chicago home, depending on who wins the state's attorney's race. There will be discussion about whether or not people should have really come out in a much more greater number. I will tell you, I was in a place today and I asked if they were going to go vote. They didn't realize it was election day.
Wow.
Didn't realize they went to vote because they sent me the note, which I asked for, but they didn't realize it was election day. So we generally didn't do as good of a job as we could have collectively in making sure that people knew what was at stake and knew that they should get out and vote.
And I had that happen to a couple of people I talked to, didn't realize today was election day.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Professor Dominguez, Northwestern professor who teaches Chicago politics at Northwestern. Thank you so much for joining us as well tonight.
Yeah, we do appreciate his time. All right, let's talk about the Caston race, the 6th districts. Let's take a look. There's some results coming in from that race. We'll take a quick look right now. It looks like he's projected as the winner with 73% of the vote, 46% reporting, but obviously nowhere near getting close to Sean Caston. Not a really big surprise on this one, actually.
No, he had a tougher primary 2 years ago and actually didn't even realize that he had, I should have been focusing on other races and didn't know he had 2 opponents, not just one.
That's okay. I think you're going to be in good stead.
Speaking my truth here.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Chicago being center stage for the Democrats. The DNC is coming here. How do you see that all playing out? Are we going to be sitting pretty here as the city of Chicago when the DNC comes to town?
Well, we've certainly got some issues that are going to be front and center because the DNC is coming to town, and the war in Israel, between Israel and Hamas, certainly is going to be an issue, and the demonstrators are going to use this as a platform to make their case. So, I mean, I see the Democratic Convention as an opportunity for a lot of people to come here and voice their dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party. It doesn't mean that they're not going to vote for Biden, but this is an opportunity to make their voices heard.
Decision 2024, Illinois primary election night, live from NBC Chicago.
Hello and welcome back to our primary night in Illinois special. I'm Marianne Ahern.
And I'm Marion Brooks. Thank you for being here. Results are starting to come in. Let's take a look. Projected winner there, Joe Biden. Not a surprise. They had already sealed their nominations, so foregone conclusion. Illinois follows suit. Let's take a look at the Republican race. We know that Donald Trump, also the projected winner. Nikki Haley with 18%. Even though she's already dropped from the race. I'm not really kind of surprised by that. But again, he was already the presumptive nominee. Now we want to bring in 2 more guests for you. Joining us now is Cam Buckner.
As well as he is the Illinois House Representative of the 26th District and the radio host, attorney Kimberly Agawa.
Hello.
Thanks to see you. It's been a long time.
Let's kick it off with the presidential race. Just your thoughts about where things stand. I mean, Illinois was a foregone conclusion. We knew where we were going to be, especially heading into it. Both of the races had pretty much been decided. Just give us your thoughts on where we are today as it relates to the presidential race.
The biggest controversy was Trump going to be on the ticket? And we knew that was going to happen after the decision was made. But I don't see any big surprises here. I think, and I'm sure we'll get to that as far as the voter turnout a little bit later, I don't see any surprises here at all. It's kind of hard being an Illinoisan at this point with a race already decided on both sides. So
that's right. I mean, in January, we knew who the 2 nominees were going to be, right? And that drove, I think, a very low turnout here. But one thing I think is worth noting, the 35,000 Illinois Republicans who voted for Trump, who voted against Trump, even though Nikki Haley is no longer in the race. That's an interesting number to me.
You have to wonder as well, might some of them have picked a Democratic ballot this time around? Yeah. Is the support really as strong for Biden across the state? Are you seeing and hearing that?
Well, I talk to folks across the state every single day, and I know that there are some concerns, obviously, with the current president, but it seems that people are starting to coalesce. They're starting to realize that the nominee is the nominee, and we'll figure out, what happens post-convention. But I think the support is there and it's strong.
I think that there are a lot of concerns in the African American community. And then you have other, we just talked about how there was a group of Palestinian leaders who were invited to a meeting with the president, or at least his staff, and they all decided not only are we not coming, there's no discussion to be had, but then also anyone who goes is a sellout. No one wants to be called a sellout. So that's another pocket that's having issues with the Israel-Hamas issue. But in the African American community right now, as well as other communities across the city of Chicago in particular, this thing with the border, the issue with the border is the elephant in the room that no one is really paying a whole lot of attention to. In Illinois, we don't have the slot where you can vote unsupported, or like they do in Michigan, no support, non-support, or whatever that is. So I think that there are a lot of different reasons why people did not come out, and they did not come out.
This week, Donald Trump even went after Governor Pritzker. It was the first time he mentioned Governor Pritzker's name. Wasn't very nice what he had to say, but sometimes in politics to have your name mentioned is a good thing.
Especially by a former president.
Yeah.
And
What did you make of that? It was in the same breath that we often hear of Gavin Newsom coming out of his, This time it was also Pritzker.
Yeah, it seems that folks like President Trump are now paying attention to the things that are going on here in Illinois. Obviously, there's been a lot of people bantying about whether or not Governor Pritzker is interested in the presidential seat. And so we'll see how things shake out. But I think that it's never a bad thing to have your name mentioned in that way.
Even if it's a negative.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, he's running commercials right now. Governor Pritzker is running, why?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's around an issue-driven type thing, but I think that the persona, he wants that persona to definitely be as high, and to have those discussions, especially saying, I'm working for you, but I thought he was running. I'm like, I know he's not running, so.
Well, he's running.
Yeah.
He's running for something. All right. Joining us now is Ron Safer. He is a former federal prosecutor. We want to talk to the former federal prosecutor about what Trump is facing, former President Trump is facing from a legal perspective. You have tried many cases, including cases where there have been former members of the political stratosphere that have gone down. Tell us a little bit about how you think this plays out going forward. It doesn't seem to have hurt him as a candidate.
Which is remarkable that a 4 times indicted person would not really be affected at all by the indictments. So really the question becomes, which, if any, of these cases is going to happen before the election? Because if he was elected, then all of these go away. The 2 federal cases, he will appoint an attorney general who dismisses. The two state cases, one in Georgia, one in New York, would go away because you cannot be tried while you are president for a criminal trial. And so the question is, which one of these, if any of them, can go to trial before the election?
And also, Ron, can you discuss the sweeping immunity question that the U.S. Supreme Court will be hearing soon?
So the Supreme Court is hearing whether or not a president is immune for anything that he does, that is, everything that he does while he is president. Indeed, during the oral argument before the D.C. Circuit Court, the court immediately below the Supreme Court, his lawyers were asked, well, if the president ordered the special forces to assassinate his political opponent, would he be immune? And the answer that was given by his lawyer is yes, if he weren't impeached for that first. So that's the sweeping question before the Supreme Court. And that affects 3 of the cases, because the 2 federal cases and arguably the 2 federal cases and the Georgia case address questions of conduct while he was president.
Do you have any thoughts on whether any of those cases, if you had to pick one, which one do you think has the potential to actually make it before the election?
I think there are 2. I think the New York case, the hush money to Stormy Daniels case, that's going to go to trial before the election. And that's going to go to trial probably next month. And it is probably the least consequential of the cases, because he admits that he pays hush money. The question is, was that hush money mischaracterized as non-campaign finance money? The other case that may go to trial is the Washington case. The Washington case may go to trial. If the Supreme Court decides the immunity question, that case is likely to go to trial before the election.